When you watch a Christmas movie, you want to get that fuzzy, warm Christmas feeling. Of course, you want to be entertained, but sometimes you can actually learn something. There's so much to learn about Christmas, so where do you start? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this list focuses on the essential 7 Christmas documentaries. Christmas Unwrapped: The History of Christmas. What better way to begin this list than with a documentary about the history of Christmas? Produced by the History Channel well before they produced shows about pawning and picking, this history documentary focuses on the origin of the holiday centuries before the birth of Christ through modern day. Narrated by Harry Smith along with commentary from different historians, they recount the Christmas pagan history during the winter solstice.
In the Norse country, this winter celebration was known as Yule,
a pagan festival focused on the return of light and birth in the dark winter months. The Norse found the largest log and burned it, creating the tradition of burning the Yule log. They brought evergreens into their homes as symbols for the one plant that can endure the winter weather. What follows would be a giant feast reflecting on the past and forward to the new year. You will learn all about Christianity and how they didn't originally celebrate Jesus' birth, but the church declared his birth to fall in line on December 25th, adopting the pagan traditions based on demand.
The church pretty much had a policy of live and let live. If people would call themselves Christians and do lip service to the birth of the Savior, then let them do anything that they wanted to do with it.
Through artwork and literature, the historians recount that by the 19th century, America invented its version of Christmas, eventually reinventing it for the entire world. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol inspired, converted, and taught not only Scrooge, but the country lessons about helping your fellow man. The documentary is a straightforward historical record of our Christmas traditions, from eggnog to mistletoe to how Clement Moore's poem, A Night Before Christmas, defines who and what Santa Claus is. Featuring great artwork and historical documents, the 15-minute documentary is a great starting point on the history of the holiday.
Whatever it is, whatever your group is, if you celebrate Christmas the same way every year, there's a sense of continuity here. And the new children are brought in and in fact are socialized by saying, well, no, this is how we celebrate Christmas in our own family.
Tree Man. Francois is the tree man who every year leaves his wife and 3 small children in Quebec to sell Christmas trees in New York City until Christmas Eve.
For me, not to be there for Christmas Eve, you know what? It shakes me.
For years, Francois has driven hundreds of miles to the United States, parking his van on a street on Broadway and West 102nd Street, where his dedicated customers look forward to seeing him and buying their Christmas trees every year. Leaving before Thanksgiving, he gives a tearful goodbye to his family, buys his supplies, and builds a temporary tree lot where he will sell Christmas trees on the sidewalk while living in his van at night. A shipment of trees from North Carolina is delivered not only to Francois but to other Christmas tree sellers who descend upon the streets of New York, hoping to make a living and sacrificing their time away from family and loved ones. The neighborhood eagerly awaits his arrival, as he is more than just a tree salesman. Families have made it a tradition of purchasing their tree from Francois, even taking pictures with the man every year. Jill, who lives in the apartment building next to the tree lot, often makes Francois dinner and lets him take a shower every evening at her home.
I learned from my mother to help other people. People tell me, you let the stranger come to your house. He's not a stranger, it's another human being that I think is a wonderful human being.
Another man collects the fallen branches and places them in the planters to help make the neighborhood more festive. While Francois has 3 children of his own, he is also a father figure to 2 young men who help him sell and deliver trees working for tips. They look up to the man and feel awful when they are late for work, as they dream of a life just like the customers that they deliver to. While there's some wonderful moments of the neighbors coming together to support the tree man Francois, you also see the toll it takes working outside all day and sleeping in a van at night.
I sold thousands of trees in here to hundreds of families, but I never picked out a tree with my own family. And this is 2 years ago I thought about quitting, and that was the main reason.
He misses his family, revealing he has never purchased a tree with them for Christmas. Road Trip for Ralphie. Married couple and mega fans of A Christmas Story, Tyler and Jordy Schwartz self-produced this documentary to find and locate all of the film's shooting locations. These days, there are hundreds of YouTube videos documenting where the film was shot, but in 2008, this information was not readily available online.
This is Victoria School in St. Catharines, Ontario. As you can see, the building has seen better days.
Tyler and Jordy traveled between Cleveland, Ohio, where the house exteriors were shot, and Toronto, Canada, documenting the locations, finding the props, and speaking with some of the cast. They visited the elementary school where they saved a blackboard from Mrs. Shields' classroom, reenacting the flagpole scene in the back.
Their coats, and then of course the windows. Now a lot of these windows have been replaced over the years, but these would have been the exact same windows where they look out and see Flick with his tongue stuck to the pole.
They visited the costume shop, which still had the costumes available for rent.
So they've even got the Costume Research Bible that has all the details about every single costume that was seen in the movie. It's loaded with pictures, there's all these Polaroid snapshots, it's really cool.
The film ends with them finding the Chinese restaurant location thanks to the film's permit office. The location is now a French restaurant, and the owner was unaware that his restaurant was where Ralphie and his family were introduced to Chinese turkey. This is a fan-made film, and not professionally shot, but Tyler and Jordy were the first to document some of the film's locations in Canada. This led Brian Jones, who at the time owned the Christmas Story House Museum in Cleveland, to acquire the costumes and props that they found. Happy Holidays in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, Rick Seebeck is a local celebrity working for WQED, the local PBS station where they shot Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. For almost 40 years, Rick Seebeck has produced and narrated with his iconic voice local and national documentaries, including this one about Pittsburgh holiday celebrations in 2002.
And we're going to call this program Happy Holidays in Pittsburgh. Now, obviously, we can include only a sampling of the zillions of things that are done at this time of year, but we always hope that there will be more shows like this one, because it is such a great time of year, in spite of the shortened days.
It's just a nice time when it's dark and it's cold outside in the winter to light a candle.
And there's plenty to see and do all around this city.
Should be snowing!
The documentary focuses on Pittsburgh's holiday season, beginning from the downtown light-up night, the lighting of the Horns tree, the Point State Park tree, the now-gone Kaufman's department store windows, the giant manger scene, and the skating of the PBG ice rink. And because it's Pittsburgh, we always celebrate with fireworks. Seebeck follows Pittsburghers cutting down a Christmas tree from the local tree farm, Lake Forest Gardens, buying Christmas foods of meats and cheeses and fish from the shops in the Strip District. We learned how Heartwood Acres prepared for visitors driving through their Christmas light displays, and the friendly neighborhood competitions of trying to outdo each other by decorating their homes. At the Carnegie History Museum, Rick documented the setup of the Neapolitan Principio, featuring figures from the 1700s surrounded by decorated themed Christmas trees.
The oldest figures from around 1700 are like statues with sculpted clothing. The figures from about 1715 on are more like dolls with cloth costumes.
Here's an angel that we have, and what the Vaccaro brothers did was they developed this system with jute cord, and inside is a wired system that allows you to rotate the arms and the legs so that you can animate them or make them seated or stand. Then what they did was they made a terracotta head with a breastplate and attached it via these holes. And this is an angel, so they have two sets of holes that you allow to attach wings. I have a wing right here that allow us to stick the wing in so you can get the effect of an angel in flight.
While at the Science Center, families also make their annual visit to view the miniature railroad. Cultural traditions, including focusing on parties and worship services for Christmas and Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and Ramadan, with a holiday ending on January 1st with the Polar Bear Club jumping in the icy Allegheny River. So I live in Pittsburgh. Rick Seebeck is the Pittsburgh guy. While some of the traditions documented are no longer around, Rick does an amazing job of capturing and portraying what it's like to celebrate the holidays in the Burg.
The holidays here in Pittsburgh, like everywhere else, are full of wonderful opportunities and events, friends and families. But a big part of the magic here, as anywhere, is when all of these things come together to make this part of the world feel like home.
'Twas the fight before Christmas. Lawyer Jeremy Morris is an eccentric Christmas enthusiast who decorated his house, attracting thousands of visitors to his suburban neighborhood to view his home covered in thousands of lights, a choir, and even a live camel. Realizing the potential, Jeremy and his family decided to find a larger home with a bigger yard and buy a home in West Hated Estates in Idaho. The problem is that neighborhood has an HOA.
And every HOA has something called CC&Rs. And basically they're covenants and restrictions that sort of limit what you can do with your property.
Before he moved in, he let the HOA know about the intentions for his home and plans to ignore their laws. This infuriates his neighbors who don't want that same noise and traffic on their street. That is when the West Hated Estates HOA sends a letter denying his Christmas display intentions. Jeremy Morris ignored the letter and did it anyways, making it larger, idolizing Clark Griswold's lights from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Thousands of people bust into the area, making it difficult for his neighbors. If you have a lot of anxiety or don't want to be enraged, I will advise you to not watch this documentary directed by Becky Reed.
And through the night and the day and the night and the day, for 5 days straight, I wrote the best damn lawsuit of my life. I can sue them from now until kingdom come.
If you are unaware, like I was, who Jeremy Morris is, when you first start watching, you're going to be on his side. After all, he just wants to bring the Christmas spirit to thousands of people. What's wrong with that? Who also wants to be on the side of an HOA. But by the end of the documentary,
because you didn't know that I had secretly tape recorded you admitting that your homeowners association board discriminated against me and that you told them that they did.
Jeremy Morris will reveal who he is. Morris is convinced he cannot be wrong and is smarter than everybody. He secretly records his neighbors, proclaiming that his Christian neighbors are religiously discriminating against him.
Christmas event, with Frosty the Snowman and hot chocolate and an awful lot of what's going on here is not religious.
Morris turned to his fight into a political movement with ambitions for public office. A long drawn-out legal fight with the HOA costing thousands of dollars, with just recently Morris asking the Supreme Court to rule. Regardless of your political beliefs, this is not a festive documentary. It'll be difficult to watch, but just like watching an episode of Dateline, you can't turn it off.
I think he's using this case as a springboard to go for something bigger.
The only thing I can come up with is he was trying to get this big lawsuit going and make a name for himself.
His intention was to become a senator. And he thought because of the conservative nature of Idaho, he had a good possibility of becoming a senator.
The Movies That Made Us, Home Alone. The docuseries The Movies That Made Us on Netflix goes behind the scenes, featuring numerous movies including Back to the Future, Forrest Gump, and Jurassic Park. Known for the stylistic storytelling narrated with quick editing interviews, the series focused on the Christmas movie Home Alone in the first season. The series format is an acquired taste, but if you look past the series style, the content is fantastic.
It's obvious. We needed a proper set.
But the question was, where to build it?
We just didn't have great sound stages in Chicago.
We walked into this gym and we were like, it's got a grid in the ceiling and it's big enough and we could build a house in here, I would think. And the next thing we knew, we built all the sets in the school. This was a beautifully built, structurally built, 2 floors so you could walk up steps.
Interviewing the filmmakers, including Chris Columbus, the cast, and the production staff, they tell the wild story of how Home Alone was made.
I'm just obsessed with Christmas, and I love the script, and I was like, I'm in. and then I met the star.
Director Chris Columbus, who dropped out as the director of National Lampoon's Vacation after a dispute with Chevy Chase, contacted John Hughes about what he should do next. John had a script for Home Alone that he quickly wrote in 9 days after working with Macaulay Culkin on Uncle Buck. Offering the script to Chris Columbus to direct, the docuseries explores the obstacles of the Home Alone production. Shot in Chicago, the production lost its funding from Warner Brothers, who refused to increase the budget and shut down the production, only to have John Hughes go behind the studio's back and convince 20th Century Fox to take over the film. We get a look at how they scouted the locations for the iconic house and how the production created the entire home interiors inside a school gymnasium.
Since the grown-ups went house hunting.
Without the location, 10 hours a day we were out there scouting.
Jackie wouldn't stop until she found just the right one, that being this one.
The concept really was that the house would be warm and inviting.
This house becomes his tool to manipulate the bad guys.
Home Alone was a massive hit, and it makes you wonder how much of a mistake Warner Brothers made by dropping the film. The docuseries is fantastic, exploring casting changes, Joe Pesci's love of swearing, John Candy's quick cameo, and how the music of John Williams made Home Alone an essential classic.
He was supposed to do this, and then pause and scream. But he did this, and then he kept his hands there just because it was such a little kid thing to do. But as a result, he created this iconic moment by putting his hands there and keeping them there.
I Am Santa Claus. Have you ever thought about what all the mall Santas do throughout the year? That is what I Am Santa Claus focuses on. With so many bearded men helping Santa in malls around the country, taking on the role of Santa is important, but only working for 6 weeks a year. The documentary begins by asking children, who is Santa Claus? After all, as Bob Girardi, one of the Santas featured in this documentary, states,
I think anybody can be Santa if they have Christmas in their heart.
That includes WWE wrestler Mick Foley, who loves Christmas and is on a quest to play the role of Santa. He loves the holiday and has incorporated it into his work with WWE. While Mick is the known name in this documentary, it also focuses on 4 other Santa's helpers. As previously mentioned, Bob Girardi is a real estate agent who uses his Santa persona to help his business.
As Santa, you know, when I started doing it, I thought I had a unique idea.
He's an inspiring musician and records a Christmas album. Antique salesman Jim Stevenson, winner of the Mr. Texas Bear Roundup, breaks down when he talks about his love of being Santa bringing joy to children's lives.
I realized then you're a part of people's lives. Hold on a minute.
Jim struggles with acceptance and misses the man he's in a long-distance relationship with. Barbecue cook Frank Bascuzzi, who becomes a different man after dyeing his beard, is looking to leave his job in the sprinkler business and start his Santa-themed barbecue restaurant. That brings us to Santa Russell, who lives in his daughter's basement, living off of Social Security, waiting for that call to work as Santa Claus. Russell struggles the rest of the year, making money on recycling and hoping one day to find his own home. While he does get the job as Santa, it's a win for the man, but by the end, it feels lonely with him eating at an IHOP on Christmas Day. Tommy Avalon followed these Santas for a year, along with Mick Foley, who's used for the marketing of the documentary. There's a lot of love for these men and their role as Santa, but it also can be depressing. After all, they are humans who have life struggles, but they embrace their role as Santa.
I just miss him.
And that's the Essential 7 Christmas documentaries. Don't agree or have an opinion on a topic for a future list? Well, tell me in the comments below. I'm the Christmas Aficionado, and remember, stay off the naughty list.